through P6, about 80% of them cannot read age-appropriate sentences, and even those that can read, a good number of them cannot understand what they read. So the issue has always been the quality.
Hello guys, welcome to another exciting episode of the Let's Talk Education Africa podcast. I'm really excited about this one because day in, day out we have a lot of conversations around education and the ins and outs, the things that we can do better, the things that we can scrap out, and all the other conversations relating to education. And I'm excited because today we are going to be talking with a senior programs officer at a particularly well-known research and advocacy body, which is the Africa Education Watch. And I have with me the able-bodied Divine Kpe, or Kpe. I hope I pronounced the name correctly.
That is the first one.
It's the first one, Divine Kpe. Good.
Yeah.
Divine, thank you so much for joining the Let's Talk Education Africa podcast.
Thank you so much, Kwame. A privilege to join you.
Right. Awesome to have you here. I am a big fan of the Africa Education Watch. You have brought a lot to light within the education space, specifically in Ghana. So I know the conversation we are going to have is going to be focused around a lot on Ghana. And like I was saying earlier, I'm excited about your organization because your executive director, Kweku Asari's name has become, commonplace. Everybody knows who Kweku Asari is, and the moment he comes on, he's speaking on the things that are happening on the ground with regards to education in Ghana. And he's been speaking so much, and it's garnered a lot of attention, and it's gradually putting us in a place where we realize that there has to be certain hard decisions that have to be taken with regards to policy when it comes to education in Ghana. I've been reading a book on Martin Luther King, and I'm going to read a quote, then we dive straight into our discussion today. So there's this quote that says, "Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality." Martin Luther King. I think this quote is the perfect segue into the discussion that we are going to have today. Divine, welcome again. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Just a brief introduction to our audience.
All right, thank you. My name is Divine Kpe. I work with Africa Education Watch as the senior program officer. I am an education specialist who hold master's degree in educational measurements and evaluation. The measurement side, specifically looking at issues of educational assessment, and then at the evaluation side, looking at issues of education program evaluation. I started my career in education as a teacher who has taught at almost all the levels except at the tertiary level, and finally had to be at the policy space working with Africa Education Watch. So yes, I have the practice experience and then also the policy experience. So this combination is actually positioning me well in the space to share my ideas on issues of educational happening in the country, which I have done on a number of platforms. Media platforms, of course. I might say almost all the major media houses in the country. I've been on their platform sharing expert opinion on issues of education. And also I've been on a number of webinars like this, sharing my thoughts as well as a presentation at conference, which I've done at a number of events. So basically, this is a few about Divine Kpe.
Really interesting. Just a brief summary you shared shows me that you're a man who has been on the ground, i.e. you teaching at all levels, I mean, excluding the tertiary level, and then now you've moved into research policy. They say to understand the man, you need to go back, into his past to understand, that context. I'd want you to touch on a particular context in your childhood that you believe has influenced the path that you are on today, which is education, because it looks like you've been very interested in education from day one.
Yes, issues of education actually resonate with me when I was in basic school, primary school, specifically from P4 through to junior high school 3. I schooled in the Volta region. I had my basic education in the Volta region in a town called Have. Have had a satellite community, which is a fishing community, about 5 kilometers away from the main township. So there are people that live there, a very deprived area or community. They do not have access to electricity, no good drinking water, and they had to depend on the water lake that they fish from for drinking. The roads to their community very bad, and the school over there very bad because of the nature of the community, which is 5 kilometers away from my town. Teachers do not like to accept posting there. So when they post teachers to the community, most of them had to stay in my community, to commute from my town to that particular community to teach. And because of the distance, vehicles don't go there. Teachers would have to use motorbike. Those that do not have motorbike will have to depend on their colleagues. And that explains how some of them miss school at times. And the nature of the classroom, very, very bad. They were in mud classroom, almost collapsing. And it's not a place that anybody would wish to educate the word in. So the community people prefer sending their children to come to my hometown, which is Habe, to have education, because Habe we have at least about 5 public basic schools, and then at least 3 private basic schools, which are of good standard. So they prefer sending their wards to come to my town for education. And these children will have to walk. It's always walking. They have to commute by foot 5 kilometers to school and then 5 kilometers back to their community. And by the time they get to the school, they are already tired. They are so much exhausted. When they reach, they are sweating, and they always come in late. They can't come before 8 o'clock. So by the time they arrive in school, first lesson may have already gone. So they were always missing out a lot, and it reflected in their performance. They were performing so bad, so poor. And as I noticed that from P4, P5, I still had some along with me all through to P6, through to junior high school. And at the end of the day, after BEC, all of them failed. All those children that are in class with, they all failed because the foundation have been so poor. They get back to their community, they do not learn because there's no even electricity. And the fact is that by the time they walk back to their community, they are already tired, so they can't even make time to learn. So I've been thinking, well, if I had a power, what would I have done differently? And I really wish I could do something to change their situation. And that's when my interest in education actually grew. to see what I could do in future to address their issue, especially championing children that are in such communities, their situation, bringing their issues to light, or having engagement with policymakers to address issues of rural education. So my interest in education actually grew from that stage, and I eventually found myself in a college of education where I trained as a professional teacher. And after my training, I began mobilizing colleagues, teachers that were ready to volunteer with me. We go back to that particular community to provide free weekend tuition, and then on holidays we provide tuition to such children, basically in literacy and then numeracy, so that they go acquire those basic skills. So we're doing that to help them. So that's how eventually I began to build a profile in the space of education. And so alongside doing that voluntary activity in that particular community, and then also teaching, got a point that I feel there's a need to engage more at the policy level, because if I'm doing it in one community, it may not inure to a lot of the children in the country, because that's basically one community. So if you move to the policy level and then begin to engage policymakers on these particular issues, bringing such issues to their attention, I'm sure it could have affected a whole lot more of the children than just living it in that community. So that explained me living in the space to now finding myself in the policy space with Africa Education Watch.
Interesting. I'd like to take it back a bit. So I want to take it all the way back to your particular childhood. Was there any, can you remember anything in particular that sort of, shifted your that direction? I feel like, sometimes there's a quote by Steve Jobs that says that you can only connect the dots, moving forward, right? And you've narrated a particular context that showed, in a sense, where the desire to want to be part of education got to that crescendo, to where you actively decided, no, I'm going to, collaborate with a few other volunteers to go back and teach, etc. I'd like to take it back a bit further. So with your childhood, right, was there any influence in there? Can you point to some particular situation or a context in your childhood that's sort of shifted your mind to the path that you're on now?
Yeah, so again, I think it's that particular incident for me that has always been on my mind, and as I speak about it, it is still so fresh on my mind, and at the same time, it saddens me a lot, because when I go to my hometown and I see such colleagues of mine, because of the distance they had to commute to school, not having good school in their communities, and I happen to meet them unable to make progress as far as their education is concerned, just because they feel they are BC. But then if you feel BC, there's no option for you. You would have to go back to GSS2, restart all over again. Unlike today, where your pass mark may not necessarily have very much influence, you still get a placement in SHS, even if you haven't done relatively well. So they are there. So for me, that particular incident, it was the starting point for me. And it grew more when I got to college, because at the college level, we're exposing to issues of theories in education and also issues of educational practices. So at college level, I realized that to some extent also the challenge those colleagues of mine had were also partly born out of how we were taught then, because when I had the opportunity to be trained as a teacher, I realized that there were a lot of issues that I think teachers that taught us, or some of the teachers that taught us when we were going through the basic education, did not help us. One Richard Ackland, who authored a book titled "We Teach Them Wrong," pointed out some of the issues. Yes, I felt that to some extent, some of the teachers also taught us wrong. Probably they thought the hard way would have helped, but as I reflect as a professional teacher on your show, I think they had not helped the situation. So again, at the college level, my interest grew more in education because I feel that beyond the issue of tackling access to education is the issue of addressing the quality of teaching, because that's very, very, very important. So there's a need to ensure that while children are in school, they do not just have access, but they are in school and they are learning. And the main indicator of children learning in school is the quality of teacher. And once we talk about the quality of teacher, it comes down to the quality of teaching. That's very important. So I felt that yes, there was a missing link when I was schooling when it comes to the quality of teaching, as far as some teachers were concerned. And I felt that, okay, when I get opportunity, I should be that teacher with change that will do my very best for my pupils, and also beyond the fact that you are helping your pupils, what else can you do? And so when I finally got into the space as a teacher, I was able to organize 1 or 2 workshops for college teachers on some educational practices and then teaching pedagogy. So just to also share some of my experiences that I felt they could incorporate in their teaching process to help their learners. So yes, these events, when it comes to being in college and realizing that the way we're being taught by some of the teachers were very helpful, and also contributed to some of those colleagues of mine unable to do well in school and eventually failing their BC and not being able to progress along the educational ladder. I feel it's also one of the issues that has shaped my presence in the educational space.
Wow. Interesting. Incredibly interesting. For this body that you are a part of, the Africa Education Watch, I know I've touched on it briefly, but I'd like you to, in a few words, tell us why this body came into being and what it's seeking to achieve.
All right. Eduwatch, we are very young in a space. We are in our 4th year. And yeah, a lot of people will tell you it doesn't look like you're in your 4th year. It looks like you're in your 40th year, because
very, very true.
The shortest time you've been in the space, you've done a lot, and I must use the opportunity to extend gratitude to the team. It's because of the dedication of the team, from senior management all through to everybody in the organization playing critical roles. And that's why we've been able to achieve what we achieved so far by influencing policies through research. So yes, what we do basically is to lead policy advocacy. But first, before we do advocacy, we believe that advocacy must be evidence-led. So we invest in research, where we do a lot of research and use the findings to engage relevant stakeholders. And key stakeholders for us over the years have been the Ministry of Education and then the agencies under the ministry. Parliamentary Select Committee on Education, they have been one of our key partners along the line, especially when we want to influence policies using the parliamentary channel. We normally engage them so that they can be on our side for us to achieve the results that we want to achieve. So yeah, we are an advocacy organization. First of all, we do research to inform our advocacy, and the advocacy actually targets educational policies and then the practices. So we look at the practices what is happening as far as the policy is concerned. Because it is one thing to have a good policy, and it is another thing to ensure that the policy is being practiced well at wherever it needs to be practiced. So we work looking at the policy to formulate policy. Where there's the need for policy formulation, we advocate for policy to be formulated. When there's a need for a policy to be changed, we advocate for policy to be changed. And then when there's a need to commit more resources to policy, we advocate for that. Beyond the policy level advocacy, as I mentioned, we look at the practice, what is happening at the practice level. For instance, in the classroom, when teaching and learning is concerned, what is happening? What is happening to educational management? Management at the school level, management at the district level or the municipal level, how things are being done, and then even management at the national level when we look at the agencies. So we have over the years produced a lot of knowledge materials, some that have been sponsored by our development partners like Oxfam, Action Aid, Star Ghana Foundation, CDD Ghana. They have helped us produce a lot of knowledge materials for policy and practical engagement. So that's what we've been engaged in over the years. And our flagship publications include the WASE monitoring report, where over the years there hasn't been any organization or a body in the space that shows an interest in monitoring how external summative assessment is being done. So since the last 3 years, we've been monitoring the delivery of WASE, making recommendations to strengthen the assessment process in our pre-tertiary education system. So the WASE monitoring is one of our flagship report. The Open Governance report is another one where we assess the Ministry of Education and its agencies to understand how they engage with their partners and then even the entire public when it comes to access to information, and then also making information available to the public. We use a number of indicators to assess the performance of these agencies so that they can improve their engagement with the citizens and then also the civic society organization. The next flagship report we produce is the Education Accountability Report, where we take the Auditor General's report on education sector institutions and see the findings that are in. So because the auditor's report is very voluminous, people take it to read. At times they feel so lazy about it, and therefore once the auditor comes up with the report, it ends there. We do not hear anything about it. But we took it upon ourselves that, okay, despite the fact that the document is so large, we'll produce an abridged version of it, summarize the key issues when an educational institution is cited in a document to have embezzled or to have misappropriated a fund. We bring the issues to light, produce an abridged version of that report, then we begin to do engagement with it, like the media engagement, where we let the media share light on the issues so that it doesn't become an issue of an annual production of a report and then shelving it. No, beyond production of the report, there must be a body to use the document to engage. So we take the Auditor General document to engage the stakeholders, to retrieve monies that have been lost in one way or the other through financial irregularities. So these are some of the flagship reports that we do, and overall, these are some of the things that we are into.
So, I mean, you said or you alluded to the fact that you are just 4 years old, 4 or 5 years. I mean, I agree with the statement that it's quite hard to believe, because of the amount of work you've done within this very short period. And I'm listening to you and all the flagship programs and reports, etc. you've put out. I checked your website. I'm actually a keen listener of the commentary and the activities that you the organization undertakes from time to time. And one would easily say you literally police the government one, and then educational policy stakeholders, really, really, really well. And I mean, it goes to show the work, the body of work that you've done. I believe this is a good segue into the question for the day. So, Mr. Divine Kpe, what is the state of basic education in Ghana today?
All right, so the state of basic education. Basic education over the years have been at the center of administration or center of focus for all political administrations that we've had over the years. And there'll be a number of interventions to promote access and quality. And over the years, we've seen some of the interventions and programs yielding results. For instance, when you take the free compulsory universal basic education, yes, it has helped to ensure that enrollment has improved by virtue of the fact that basic education is free. We've recorded good number of enrollment, because if you look at it over the past 2 decades, you take net enrollment alone, it has increased from 60% to currently 85%. And that is a good record. And you take the gross enrollment ratio, that one is over 100% now. So we have achieved good figure when it comes to access to education at the basic level, just because there have been intervention like the free compulsory universal basic education FQ, and then also the Ghana school feeding program that has been introduced. And there were a point in time that government brought in free uniform, and then also we had instances of free sandals, free exercise book policy. All were contributing factors to the delivery of access to basic education. And then when it comes to the quality aspect too, yes, there have been a number of interventions. We have a series of programs that were targeted at teachers, building teachers' capacity so that they can improve teaching and learning in the classroom. We can talk about the Star Ghana project. We can recently talk about the Ghana Accountability and Learning Outcome project. We can talk about the transition to English project, all basically to ensure that we address issues of quality that has been concerned. Despite the fact that these interventions have produced relatively good results, we still have a long way to go, given the very fact that we still have 1 million children that have never been to school before, because the Constitution demands that education should be universally accessible to every child. So even if you have one single child that have never been to school, then it is a scar actually on the delivery of FQ in the country, and we don't need to have that scar on the conscience of the delivery of the progression of the FQ program. So for us, using the Ghana Statistical Service data, that tells that 1 million children have never been to school. We are worried that we've gotten to this point. Even we are midway through the Sustainable Development Goal, and we still have 1 million children never been to school before. And in addition to the 1 million that have never been to school before, we're having 400,000 that have enrolled but dropped out along the line. So currently we have 1.4 million children that are out of school. They are not enrolled in basic education. So in terms of enrollment, as I mentioned, that progress has been made in enrolling good number of children. Looking at the net enrollment and then the gross enrollment ratio, we still need to put attention on these students 1.4 that are currently not in the educational system. And when it comes to quality aspect, I think that is where we are struggling the most, because as the World Bank would put it, there's a lot of learning poverty, meaning children are in the school or in a classroom, but they are not learning. And if you look at immediate data that are available to us, or like the National Standard Test, which after the outcome of that test, we had just about 54% or so of P4 people passing the test when it comes to literacy. But it tells you that if you have about 54%, then about 46%, it means that they are not achieving the minimum proficiency when it comes to literacy. And the rate is also relatively close to that when it comes to the numeracy. So we are having our children in school, but a good number of them are not in school. World Bank in 2018 tells us that when you take children that are age 10, and in age 10, we expect that child should be in P5 or P6. So relatively, we can say when we take children that are in P5 to P6, about 80% of them cannot read age-appropriate sentences. And even those that can read, a good number of them cannot understand what they read. So the issue has always been the quality aspect, how we can make the educational system relevant to children that are in school, so that they are not just in school, they are not just enrolled, but they are getting the dividend that they need to get by being in the classroom. That is what we are struggling with right now. But I'm glad that we are seeing quite some new reforms to reposition issues of quality delivery, and it takes a lot of time for you to see the outcome of such interventions. Anyway, I'm just hopeful that the interventions or the reforms we are seeing at the basic education space in the last 5 years or so should be able to position us to address the issues of quality in the space.
There was a conversation I listened to between your executive director and then the journalist at CTFM, and it was mainly focused on the SHS, the free SHS, implementation that has been rolled out since 2017 and all the issues that have been coming out of it. Your executive director pointed very strongly about the fact that a lot of groundwork had not been paid attention to, specifically in the basic schools, so pre-tertiary, at the pre-tertiary levels. His argument was that if you do not pay attention and provide all the necessary, if you like, tools and the proper structure and organization for the basic school or the pre-tertiary sector, the quality or the foundation that is supposed to be built to enable these students get up to par to transition into the free SHS system would ultimately lead to its collapse. From the markers that you've shared so far, it looks as if we are doing great when it comes to enrollment, right? So that there's access. You mentioned that there's been a 60 to 80% enrollment because of the different interventions that were put in place, i.e. the FQ program, the feeding program, the free uniform, free sandals, etc. If we are getting or doing well when it comes to access, what's the difficulty when it comes to the quality bit?
All right. A number of factors come to play for education to deliver of quality that is required of it. And at the center of that is the quality of teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So in any educational system, the first point of quality requirement should be the quality of the teacher. So there have been deficits over the years when it comes to enhancing the capacity of teachers to ensure that they deliver to meet the requirements that children come to school to expect from them. I know teachers are doing their very best wherever they found themselves in the country. But again, the reality is that by the very fact that you are leaving school and then things are even changing, by the time you get to the classroom, the knowledge you may have acquired when it comes to teaching and learning, the science of teaching and learning, a good number of them may have changed. Then it becomes a difficulty for a teacher to be able to deliver very well in the classroom. So the quality of teachers, even though we have given them training at the initial stage, but we have not been deliberate in enhancing their capacity on the job. We have just been doing that using piecemeal approach. Over the years, you'll see district directors of education, once in a while they organize a workshop on this and that, then it ends there. Not until recently that we come to the realization that, look, we need to have continuous professional development for our teachers so that on the job we can be enhancing their capacity. So there, little attention had been paid to professional development of teachers. So we haven't done well over the years in building the capacity of teachers to address issues of teaching and learning in the classroom after training them from their various training institutions. So that has been a gap, and I'm glad that we are seeing reforms in our teacher training institutions, and even on the job, there are some reforms to enhance the capacity of the teachers. So even at the College of Education level, we have realized that the requirement now for one to enter into training is very competitive now. Previously, somebody who has E8 would have entered College of Education easily, but the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission says, so no, we can't do that anymore. The National Teaching Council came in and no, that cannot happen anymore. So even at the entry point, we want to attract good teachers. We want to attract good teachers who have done well in their WASE, so that it will be the point that you have failed and you can't go to university. That's why you are going to, that's why you're going to College of Education. So we are attracting good quality individuals as far as academic performance is concerned into the colleges of education now. And then also even the curriculum at the college level has also been reformed to be more relevant to the needs of the pupils in the 21st century. Attention is being given to critical issues like literacy and numeracy, gender issues in a classroom, inclusive education, and then also gender-sensitive pedagogy. So some of the issues, even at the college level, are being transformed so that training can be more relevant to the student. And even you rightly be aware that after completion of college or even teacher training institution at the university level, you now have to write a licentiate exam to be able to become somebody who could be posted into the classroom. These are all quality assurance measures to ensure that the primary thing that delivers on the quality of education is that is the quality of the teacher. And I'm glad about these reforms that we are seeing in the space. But again, next to the quality of teacher in the delivery of quality education is the availability of resources. If teachers are of high quality, but they do not have resources available to deliver, then they become inefficient, effective on their job, to become ineffective on a job. And it has been the bane of the education system over the years that resources are not being adequately made available for teachers to work with. If you take textbook, for instance, prior to the introduction of the new curriculum in 2019, the pupils to textbook ratio was 0.6, which means that only 60% of primary pupils were having textbooks available to them. 40% were not having textbooks. So now we are running a new curriculum. So even before the start of the new curriculum, there have been deficits when it comes to textbook availability in the schools, teaching and learning resources that teachers who require for them to do practical works week, they are not there. And I'm sad when we still hear persons that are in management level who should have ensured that these resources are available for teaching and learning, telling teachers every day that they should improvise. When teachers talk about teaching and resources not being available, they are telling them, go and improvise. You have been taught improvisation in school, so improvise for your teaching and learning. No, we cannot continue on that tangent because the world is moving forward, and teachers need to have the real material, which we call the realia, to teach with. Their colleagues in other countries are not using tin milk as a victim. No, they are using the real maker for their demonstration. So you can't tell teachers to go and collect was a Milo tin as a victim. No, it's not the best thing to promote in this age. Talking about improvisation. If you can't get a tube for your lesson that requires the use of a tube, go and use pawpaw branch tube. No. We can't do that anymore. So there's a need to invest in teaching and learning resources that teachers require for their learning, so that once we've enhanced their capacity, they can also have what they require to teach with. And of course, the issue of the nature of our school environment even naturally not being attractive for good learning. There are a lot of students that are still learning under trees, some still learning under shades, some learning under dilapidated structures. There's no way you can promote effective teaching and learning in such environments. And I'm sad that because of the low investments in public basic education, we are gradually beginning to see the emergence of privatization and then commercialization of education, basic education for that matter. Because if you look at it, the pace at which private schools are growing is so much high compared to the pace at which public schools are growing. You take from 2010 to 2020, for instance, private schools have grown over 100%. Wow. But for the public school, they grew just by 4%. In Accra here, within the last 10 years, 2010 to 2020, only 6 public schools were added, but private schools were in their thousands. So when you do not invest in public education, then you are giving parents the option just to select private education, because if public school is not available to them, the only option available to them is to send their wards to private schools. And if you begin to have more of your citizens, your children going to private school, then it means that your delivery on the free compulsory universal basic education, which the Constitution even enjoys you to see to its fruition, you then will be scoring you low mark on that. So for me, these are issues that need to be addressed when it comes to the delivery of the quality in the basic education system. But when it comes to quality of basic education, you can't talk about the instance of the teaching and availability of resources only without talking about the quality of the child being enrolled at the beginning of school. So that brings in the very fact that for a child to do well in school, then the home factor also needs to be strengthened. And that's why we talk about the quality of the child entering the school. If a child receives good environment when growing up, that child is likely to enter school doing well. A child that receives good nutritious meal develops very well, the brain develops very well. The child that is provided with the opportunity to have access to books or learning material before starting school, of course, do well in school. But unfortunately, because of poverty, we do not have most of our children coming to school or starting school being ready. Their quality level is so poor by the time they are enrolling in school, just because of poverty. Parents cannot provide the right environment for them to be developing when it comes to their mental development, for them to be school ready. The environment has not been prepared for them. That's why somebody who has grown in a high income family and the parents have exposed that child to learning opportunity, that child is watching educational materials on digital devices before even starting school, we say that child is school ready. And by the time that child is getting to school, that child is already positioned to do very well in school. And if the opportunity is not created for children, every child to experience that level of school readiness before they begin their KG, then we begin to see that they'll perform poorly. And that's why some of us, we are sad that early childhood education, when it comes to crèche and then the nursery, they only exist mostly in the urban areas, and it's only the rich that usually get opportunity to send their wards to such environment. Ideally, the delivery of crèche and nursery falls under social welfare department, but we do not see these facilities in our communities, whereby parents who want to prepare their wards for school can begin also to enroll them at the crèche, and then they are prepared by the time they are of age 4 and ready to begin school. We know that they have developed mentally and now they are ready for their formal education. We do not have such facility dotted across the country to prepare children to do well in school.
You mentioned reforms and interventions that have come up, at least quite recently, that are, supposed to tackle the huge issues that we have when it comes to basic education in Ghana. What are those reforms and interventions?
Yeah, so I began with the teacher reforms. For instance, the reform at the curriculum that they train the teachers with. So that is one of the reforms. And then also I've mentioned that entering into College of Education now, the stake is quite high. And now you need to pass your licentiate before you can be licensed to teach in Ghana. Another reform, significant one, of course, is now the institutionalization of continuous professional development, whereby you need to accrue continual professional point before your license will be renewed as you build your career in the teaching field. So now it is not an issue of you have graduated from school, you are posted into the classroom, you are there forever. If you don't build yourself professionally, you haven't updated yourself with the current trend of teaching and learning. No, and at the end of the day, you are promoted, even if you haven't done anything. No, it's no more there. Now you have to be deliberate about your own professional development by taking part in workshops, seminars, webinars, and anything that enhances your professional knowledge, improve your teaching and learning delivery, and then you get points for that. And as long as you go, you have to use these points to renew your license as a teacher. So teachers know very well that now I can't just say I'm done with school. I don't have to update my knowledge on how I can help my learners in the classroom to improve their literacy or numeracy skills. No, the teachers know that the stake is high. They need to update their own knowledge to be relevant in the space and in the classroom and relevant to their learners. So that reform is also a good reform that we have seen. And then also even reforming the curriculum itself is a very good reform. In 2019, we've seen that new curriculum is being implemented in the basic schools, and well, let me be specific, from the KG to primary. So we've seen a new curriculum. And one good thing about this curriculum is the concept of the promotion of depth and breadth of learning. In education, what we mean by that is that instead of learning several strands, or let's say class one, you take class one science curriculum, and then you see plenty topics, or in other words, strands. You see plenty strands. And then at the end of the academic year for primary one, the teacher is unable to finish the topics with the learners. The learners move to P2, and they meet different topics at that level in the science. They are unable to finish at that level. They move to P3, they meet different topics again. That has belonged to the past. The new curriculum, what is promoting like that? Okay, let's treat fewer strands. So we have fewer topics. Now let's treat it at the child's age appropriate level. When the child is, let's say, in class 1, if the child is done with class 1, the child moves to class 2, the child meets most of such topics again in P2, and then P2 content now builds on the P1 content. The child moves to P3, the child most likely to meet most of the topics again in P3, the child now builds on it again. So if it moves along like that to P6, so the child now has the opportunity to be able to learn fewer things, but much higher level. So that is the concept of the breadth and depth of the curriculum reform, which I commend the curriculum developers for. They've done a very fantastic job. That's very good. If we're able to do that, then we are giving opportunity to our learners to learn, to have deeper understanding of this, and not learning for the test. Okay, I have a lot to learn, let me just learn to pass. No, that concept wouldn't work anymore. And also the reform in the assessment process, specifically the very fact that at P2, P4, P6, we have seen the introduction of what we call national standard test, which is to assess children or the pupils on a particular standard that they are supposed to meet before they progress to the next level. So the child learns in P1, moves to P2, learns. Now we now carry national level assessment for all of them, and then we see their performance. Are they doing well? Are they not doing well? If we've seen that, oh, they are not doing well, the data gets back to the school. It's okay, this number of your children, they are not doing well in literacy, they are not doing well in numeracy. Then the teacher, together with the school management, they are able to develop interventions for children that are not doing well, other than waiting to say maybe it is just even at the end of BEC that we begin to assess at such large scale to be able to know whether children are doing well or not. So by JSS3, you are doing large scale assessment, then it is too late. So it's good that within several points along the level of basic education, there is a stopgap to assess what the students have learned so far and what they know. And the good news is that such assessment is not summative assessment. It's not going to be used for any judgment purpose. It is purely diagnostic. In diagnostic assessment, you are looking at what the problem is with the child when it comes to literacy, when it comes to numeracy. So it is to diagnose the challenge the children are having in the classroom, so that if P2 results are out and we know that this is the challenge the child is having in literacy and numeracy, by the time the child is moving to P3, then plans would have been put in place with the P3 teacher to see the intervention that P3 teacher could provide for that child. And that brings into the point what we call the differentiated learning that the Ghana Accountability and Learning Outcome Project is enhancing teachers' capacity on. Because there's no way we can begin to or continue to teach students as a whole class. No. Students come to class with different abilities, and therefore you need to know that taking them as a whole class is a poor approach to teaching. So you have to teach them based on their different abilities. So let's say some of them are high performance, some are middle performance, some are low performance. So if it comes to reading and writing, let's group these children who are middle performance, let's group them in one. High performance, they should be another group, low performance. Then the teacher attends to them at the group level using different tasks. So you do not give the same task to somebody who is a higher performer, and then the same task to somebody who is a low performer. It is supposed not to work like that. But the reality is that while some of these reforms are in place, especially the one I'm talking about, the differentiated learning, while they exist in theory, they are not being implemented well, or when it comes to the fidelity of implementation, we are not seeing it, because Gallup started for some years now, and so far you visit a good number of schools that are Gallup schools, and you do not see the differentiated learning taking place in the school environment, although the capacity of teachers have been developed to that effect. But again, the resources to equip the teachers with to implement that, I must also add, so some teachers will make a case that, look, the resources that you need to give us to implement that particular program, we have not received it. So for me, I think this reformation in the space, if we are able to commit to them, implement them very well, we'll begin to see improvement in the quality of basic education delivery, public one, of course, in the country.
I am very much appreciative of the great insights that you're sharing. I mean, it's evident of the amount of research that you have done. I'm listening to the reforms. I want to take you back a bit to the private schools. You mentioned something about private schools increasing from, I think, 2010, I believe, to about 2020, if I'm not mistaken. And you mentioned that they were increasing at about 100%, whilst public schools were increasing at about 4%. I mean, with the host of issues that we have, right? You've mentioned quite a few, and I see how at least governments in and out are making, gradual inroads as to, how to solve them, etc. Don't you think a collaboration with the private schools would inure to our benefit? Because if private schools are increasing that much, and we are clearly, not moving as fast as we should, education-wise, is there room for collaboration? Is something happening in that space?
All right. Private schools, we cannot estimate their role in the delivery of education in the country. They've done well. If not their presence in some communities, some children will not be in school. So yes, I subscribe to the very fact that where there's a need, the government can provide an intervention to them. If government will need to, let's say, absorb at a point in time the capacity building for their teachers, the cost of capacity building for their teachers, I know that is welcome. If government at a point will want to subsidize textbook fees for the children provided, that is also welcome. So yes, there's a need that government to look at the point of assisting them to deliver education. But what I must caution again, going back to my earlier point, is the access to private school by any child should not be because there's no public school in that community.
Okay.
It shouldn't be. No, when you leave it at that okay, government says I can't build school here. Let me partner with private schools and do it. At the end of the day, you will not be living to the purpose of what the Constitution requires of you in the delivery of free, compulsory, universal basic education. Article 25 Clause 1 is clear that education shall be free, compulsory, universal. Universal means it should be accessible to every child. So you as a government, your duty is first of all make the school accessible to the child. If the parent decides that, look, I won't take the child to your school, your government school, I'll send the child to private school, that is fine. But it shouldn't be because the parent is not having access to public school. You know, in one of our studies, 70% of respondents indicated that they sending their wards to private school isn't because they wanted to, but because one, they either were not having access to public schools, or the quality of public school is not up to standard, so have no option than to send their wards to private school. So you need to require from government to make school accessible and then also improve on the quality. Then at the end of the day, if the two of them are there and a parent wants to send a wards to private school, then you have delivered on what the Constitution has required of you. Now there is the parent that is making that option, because private education is not only for the middle class household. People from the poorest household are also having access to private education. And the study tells us that parents from the poorest household spend 30% of their household income on private education. And if you take it that Ghana Statistical Service is telling us that Ghanaians mostly we spend 40% of our household income on food. And now, a poor household or poorest household spending 40% of income on food, spending 30% of income, household income on private education. That is 70%. So they are left with 30% to do other things. They can't invest, they can't acquire property, and that makes life more difficult for them. So if there's a good public basic education, that poor person will send the word to that good public basic school, it means that poorest household family will be saving 30% of their household income to do something else and not be spending it on private education. That is why we need to demand from government to ensure that the constitutional requirement that education is free, accessible to every child is delivered. In fact, the directive principle of the state policies also again adjoins the government, any government that comes to power, to ensure that this constitutional requirement is met. So yes, we are not saying private education we don't need it. No, I'm not saying we don't need it. They have played critical roles in the space over the year. In fact, 30% of children that are enrolled in primary schools are in private schools. So yes, that tells you the significant roles they are playing. But we are also mindful of the very fact that education is a human right and it is also public good. The very fact that it's a human right and public good, it requires the state to make it accessible to every child, so that the right to education will not be denied a child because it is private school that is in their environment and they cannot afford that fee, and therefore the child is at home, or they are being forced to enroll in private school because at the end of the day they had no option, and they are doing so with a heavy heart, not because they really wanted to. So yes, any form of assistance to private schools also to reduce their fees that they charge is also good. For instance, as I mentioned, if private schools say it's possible we provide training for our teachers, that is why some of our costs are so high. Government can say, okay, in areas so far that I haven't reached, what have been done to reach some areas. Maybe I can subsidize the training rate for your teachers so that school fees in such private school can be less, so that parents can manage in affording it. Maybe I want to subsidize textbooks that are provided inside private school so that children in those poor community can be managing or having access to the private school, while the government takes effort to make public school accessible to them, and then the parent will not have the option as to whether to go to private school or the public schools.
Thank you so much. To wrap up this conversation, it says you summed it up really nicely, where you said that education is a human right and a public good, and it behoves on the government to make public schools available and accessible. I think that's an incredible, a smooth way to wrap up our conversation today. There's a quote from Martin Luther King again that says, "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education." And I am really excited about the fact that we have a strong and able-bodied research and advocacy body in Africa Education Watch that is doing the work. Is doing is playing a really integral role in making sure that as the governments come in and go out, they stick to what has been, clearly put in the Constitution, and take active steps to make sure that education is available and accessible to each and every Ghanaian. Divine, thank you so much. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for your the wisdom that you've shared today. I am really appreciative of it. I'm sure our listeners have greatly learned a thing or two as to the rather contextual, situation of education in Ghana today. And I'm sure, they've picked up a thing or two that they find useful. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure we'll speak again on a different topic.
Thank you so much, Kwame, for having me. And then also, my regards to Dorcas. She has done well in getting me to this platform. I do not take the opportunity for granted. Thank you all. And regards to the team out there.
We'll pass it on. Thank you so much. Have a brilliant day.
Sure. Thank you.